Hello, everyone, and then welcome to this webinar. I'm Francis Seeley from GlobalNet 21 and Enfield Voices, and this is one of our regular webinars. And here we're going to look at an interesting project, an innovative project, which is trying to bring art and community together. And it's one in Edmonton, run by Artist Hive Studios. And we've got two people who started that venture, very brave of them, a couple of years ago, I think, but they'll tell us that, and it's Chantelle Purcell and Mark Beattie. Now, I'm going to ask you both, first of all, very briefly, really briefly, to tell us something about yourself and your background, so we can get some idea of, what brings you to the space you are today in doing what you do. So can we begin with you, Chantelle?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Chantelle. I work as a sort of curator. Mark and I met on our master's course at Kingston University, where we sort of collaborated on various sort of exhibitions and projects. And it wasn't until 2 years ago that we co-founded Artist Hive Studios, which is in Upper Edmonton.
Okay, Mark, what about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Beattie, sculptor and co-founder of Artist Hive Studios. So I graduated 10 years ago and have been making and exhibiting sculptures since. Have collectors throughout Europe and America. Yes, as Shan said, we met on our MA just under 10 years ago in Kingston. And yeah, have since started Artist Hive Studios on Pretoria Road North.
Okay, so Chantelle, Artist Hive Studios, what is it? Tell us what you do there.
So we're based on Pretoria Road North. We're a community hub and a studios. What we wanted from the original sort of model was something that was beyond a traditional sort of studio space. So one where we could really think about community and communal spaces where the artists could come and sort of share in new ideas. So at the heart of it is very much about sort of workshops and bringing art closer to the community. And at the moment we have 15 practitioners based there, all from different disciplines. So painting, printmaking through to sort of sculpture. Yeah.
Okay, and Chantelle, you say in your website that you want to bridge the gap between culture and community. What's the gap that you really want to bridge?
Yeah, for us, I mean, I've been working in the art industry for over 10 years now in the gallery sector. And so for me, it's really about making art accessible to the everyday public. So really sort of thinking about bridging the gap through educational sort of outreach models and programs that we can sort of implement in. So our space is very much driven by being sort of really inclusive and open for everyone to sort of drop in and be able to sort of work on sort of paintings and pieces and workshops throughout. So it's really about accessibility, I think.
So Mark, it's open, inclusive space for artists to work in. So is it for artists really who don't have space of their own? You're like a hot desk, an artist hot desk where people can come and find a space?
We've got a full range, actually. We've got self-enclosed studios. We've got 13 self-contained studios across 2 floors, but we're also using our communal area for hot desking. We're going to be providing art desks by the end of April, and that will be a case by case where people can come in and use it for a few hours. They'll have a locker and they'll be able to clear their things away at the end of the day. But the important thing is that people are, not necessarily that people that don't want to work from home can come to a creative environment and be surrounded by other creatives, do a few hours work, and it really, inspires you to be surrounded by other artists from a full range of disciplines as well. As Shan said, we've got painters and sculptors and printmakers, and actually the crossover between all those disciplines is something that's quite special. As a sculptor myself, I've noticed how other disciplines have started to have an effect on my own practice, which is something that's really exciting and I didn't realise would happen as part of the Hive.
Well, yeah, I mean, the cross-fertilization of ideas
Mm.
is really important. And you say you have hot desks, but Chantelle, you have places where people could perform as well, don't you? You also you do dance and dramatic arts and things like that as well?
Yeah, so we've got a large communal area. So prior to lockdown and the pandemic, we were using the space to very much hold evening classes. It could be life drawing, exploring movement and the body and dance. So yeah, so we're really sort of keen on this idea of providing a space for mixed arts across all the different spectrum. So yeah, so very much wanting to use it as an exhibition space as well. So we had a couple of exhibitions prior to, and we were also part of, we held a poetry slam event and workshop last year for Enfield Council as well. So yeah, so we're very much wanting to use it as a test space for artists and creatives to try out new ideas and showcase their works in new ways.
Well, that must be, really exciting for you to see the artists come in, develop ideas, develop projects, and find in themselves something they probably didn't know they had. And that has got to be really encouraging. Maybe beginning with you, Mark, you could give us one example of an artist you work with that you would like to, illustrate to us or showcase to us because you think it's quite special.
Yeah, of course. So we've got a few recent graduates in the studio. Renin, who's on our website, springs to mind. She graduated from Brighton University 2 years ago now, maybe. And it's been really fantastic to see how she's experimented. When she first joined us, she had produced huge paintings. And then moving back to London, she realized that, it might not be possible to paint at that scale and be sustainable. So it was quite interesting to see how she adapted her style to make them more accessible. And now we're really pleased that she's using our communal area to go large again and to have that space and opportunity to experiment at a number of different scales. Has been really quite special to watch how she's developed over the last year and grown in confidence as well. I think an aspect that Chantelle and I didn't realise would be so rewarding is the mentoring aspect of having artists in there from recent graduates right through to more established artists, but the sharing of knowledge and contacts. Someone might have a really good framer that they use and then they recommend it to someone else, or an artist material shop that they should be using. So that's been really great for Shan and I to witness and participate in. It's been great to support people.
And Chantelle, do you have an example that's really sort of, affected you and you thought was really, really great?
In terms of artists, I would say it's been really amazing actually seeing some of our artists focusing on public realm projects. So last year when we were in lockdown, we couldn't open up the space as usual. We started to think about how we could transform the public realm in new ways and bring art to the public and to the street. So there's a really fantastic artist called King, and he has got a really sort of graphic sort of sensibility. He's studying at Central St Martin's at the moment, and it's really interesting to see how he infuses his works with colour and a sense of sort of identity as well. And yeah, he's got a piece that is on 4 Street at the moment, which is a real celebration of, sort of figurative sort of elements and sort of urban context, but also sort of his cultural heritage as well.
So is that sort of, a mural or something that's in the public space? Is that something that you do a lot of and that you encourage, Chantelle?
Yeah, it's something that we're looking to get more involved in. We really believe that meanwhile interventions can have a really positive impact if done sort of correctly. And it gives our artists new ways in which to sort of showcase their works as well. So it could be anything from sort of mural or crossings, or thinking about sort of pop-up spaces in which we can sort of use in a way that sort of promotes engagement and interactivity. So connecting arts and placemaking is something that we're looking to do more of.
And how, Chantelle, when you're doing that, do you support them? What support can you give?
So a huge part of our ethos is ensuring artists get paid for their work. So quite often working via a sort of open call sort of method, where we keep the sort of opportunity as inclusive as possible, and then ensuring that the artist is commissioned for their works. I think that's a key part to making sure that the opportunity is sustainable for artists. And I say another sort of key part is sort of ensuring that we can offer our expertise of working with various sort of suppliers and fabricators, which Mark and I have kind of built up a sort of knowledge base over the years that we've been working in the industry. So we very much sort of work to sort of guide and facilitate that process and offer our expertise as well.
Okay, and you also, don't you, Mark, have an Edmonton Crossing project. Tell us about that, because I know that those sort of projects have created some sort of controversy by people who like the old zebra crossings, but tell us what you've done and the reaction you've had to it.
Yeah, ours was based on the heritage of the area and industries that are in the area of Edmonton in particular. And it's on 4th Street, just near the library. So we do encourage people to go and have a look at that. And there's actually a QR code that you can scan on the crossing that will take you to a blog post on our website that explains a lot more about the artwork. But it's about colour TVs, which were manufactured in the area, some of the first colour TVs. And yeah, the response has been, even just the day after it was installed, when we met the Deputy Councillor, Ian Barnes there, it was great, you know, just to see the locals taking pictures of it, wondering what was happening. Yes, you know, change is going to cause a bit of controversy and not everyone's going to be keen for change. But I think a splash of colour and something different in that area is essential. And art is supposed to stir debate. You know, it got people talking, it stopped people in their tracks, they were taking pictures. Kids were interacting with it, and I just think it was a fantastic project to be involved with. I know that there are a number of crossings throughout Enfield, and yeah, we were really honoured to be invited.
I suppose it's what some people would call disruptive innovation, because it makes people really think and talk, as you say. But also, I mean, I noticed from your site as well, you think that art has a great therapeutic value in terms of helping people who are suffering, especially in this time of COVID, from mental health problems. Chantelle, is that something you've seen happening, and have you seen art as being a way of therapy for them?
Yeah, I would definitely say it can be a way or a method for sort of therapy. I believe that art sort of offers an escape. It also has the sort of possibility to sort of bring people together. And we found from our workshops that we've run before, so we've ran some embroidery classes, and for that day, the people that took part in it, they were able to sort of really be engaged in a process of sort of making and creativity, which offers a sort of an escape from the everyday. So I think focusing more on sort of education and the arts in terms of that therapy, I think is really intriguing for us, and something that we will definitely start to explore more of. Also,
I mean, Mark, most of your people tend to be young people, do they? Or do you have older people as well? I mean,
No.
do you get engaged in intergenerational work at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, art and creativity should be for everyone. We have a full range of creatives in the studio, from students that are BA students, so they're 19, 20, right through to a retired practitioner, the designer, incredible creative, Haren, who has been a lecturer, and I don't think he'd mind me saying that he's in his 70s. So, we have a full range, and then it's not just the creatives that are in the studio on a day-to-day basis, but also the creatives that are coming in that take part in the art classes and the workshops. So Shan mentioned the embroidery workshop in January 2020, and that was fantastic. We had 15 women that were there, and they must have ranged from all generations, but coming together for that one day to participate in the same activity and really bonding. And again, it is that escapism for some. It's that community, it's finding a club. And that's something that we're really looking forward to promoting when we are able to open up again, starting life drawing classes and workshops, because the reason that we've got such a large communal space and we chose to keep it open was to make sure we could get the community in and bring people together.
Yeah. I can tell you, Mark, there's nothing wrong in being in your 70s. I can tell you that.
No,
for
absolutely
sure.
not.
But I mean, you're in Edmonton, and Edmonton is quite a deprived area in a way. There's overcrowding, there's quite a bit of homelessness, there's a lot of food bag activity, there's overcrowding. It's an area where there are some huge problems. And you say that you want to reach out to the vulnerable and the isolated, Chantelle. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, do they just come to you, or do you, positively engage them? How do you go out and find those people who you think will benefit from, the work that you do, because they're in an area like Edmonton?
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of ways that we do that, by sort of listings, reaching out to sort of groups that are in the area, and really sort of opening up what it is that we do, and that space as well. I think we last year, a big part of what we started to do is work with React, who are just fantastic kind of community kind of group and collective that are all about sort of transformational sort of change within the area, to think of ways in which we could start to become even more sort of inclusive and sort of reach out to a wider sort of audience. So I think the ways in which we'll do that is really by co-collaboration, and really coming up with sort of projects that can be produced with the community in mind. So we're not sort of trying to push things that are not relevant to the area. And I think another way as well, in terms of thinking about our area, we've actually started to sign up to the Kickstart scheme. So we're really fortunate to actually be taking on two candidates for that, which is such a fantastic scheme in terms of thinking about providing opportunities for those that are unemployed within the area, but also that access into the arts. So yes, there are different ways of how we're trying to do that, but I think co-creation and collaboration at the heart of that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, React is a very good organization. We did a webinar with them a while ago, so I know what they do and the work that they do. I mean, you've got problems now because of COVID, I know, and you can't get the people together in the way that you would like to or used to, but you have sort of taken advantage of that and tried to develop a project, haven't you, around developing resilience. Can you tell us about that, Mark?
I think, are you referring to the online classes that we created in the first lockdown?
Maybe from studio lockdown, maybe as well.
Yeah, so we during the first lockdown, we actually ran a number of projects. Early on in the lockdown, we realised that with homeschooling and various other things, it was important for people to have creativity, to almost as a cathartic process to block out the, you know, the chaos in the outside world. So we put on a series of free workshops from artists, and they are on our website. So we encourage people to go on there and look at those. But later on in the lockdown, we realized that there was a lot of artwork that was being made that was relevant to that time. So we started a new Instagram page, which was from Studio Lockdown. And that was to promote artwork specifically made in lockdown and to document those pieces of work in that moment in time. And that snowballed, really. It really took off. And it's now, we developed an art prize from Studio Lockdown Art Prize. So we've got 17 shortlisted artists, and we've got 3 winners, first place, second place, and third place. And we're now working with Enfield Council to arrange a public exhibition of these artworks around the borough, which we're really excited about. And when we're allowed, we'll be putting on an exhibition of those artists. And again, it ranges from photography to sculpture and prints. And it was really great to see the range of works that were being produced. And again, that shift in an artist's work maybe, and how their work was directly impacted by the pandemic and the lockdown. The fact that, you know, in the first lockdown, I couldn't get to the studio myself. So to stay creative, I started drawing, and that was the first time I'd drawn in 8 years. So, you know, that was just one artist, but to see that all the people that were hashtagging our page and tagging us on Instagram, it's fantastic. So yeah, I would definitely head on there and check that out. It's from Studio Lockdown.
Okay, I mean, the problems that you faced in COVID, we don't know when they'll end. COVID may be with us for some time, but there's another issue that will be with us right the way through our lives, and that's climate change. It's going to get worse. It's going to affect people. It's going to create problems for their mental health. I did a webinar some time ago with a lady who worked with the United Nations and others about using art to express people's concerns about their future, especially young people, the anxieties they had over what their future will be because of climate change. Have you, Chantelle, given any thought to how you might do that through your project?
Yeah, so we've actually launched a project which is a community makers yard on Space Hive with the Mayor of London project ideas. So it's the Make London Fund. And it's a way for us to, one, sort of transform an outdoor yard into a fully functional makers yard, to widen our reach of possible sort of creatives that we can work with. So the yard will provide woodworking and metalworking facilities. We will also have a whole programme of educational sort of workshops programmed in for a year. So we'll have an on-site technician. And the whole idea on ethos around the sort of makers yard is focused on sustainability, upcycling perhaps an old furniture piece, and being able to get that sort of technical sort of support from a creative and a technician on site to make use of that furniture sort of piece as well. So that's a big part of our sort of program for that. And we really like the idea of connecting what we do to the high street. So thinking about a pop-up shop with donation spots where people can sort of leave discarded sort of materials, and they can be used throughout the program and throughout the workshops. So we're really keen on thinking about you know, how you use old and unwanted sort of materials and this idea of reuse as well. So that's a big focus for us.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds really, really interesting. And I hope that works really well, because that could be very, very successful. Seems to me what you're doing, Mark, is that you have this view about placemaking. It's very, very important for people to love the place they're in, and for the place they're in to be the arena where they can display their ideas, their art, their public conversation, and so on. It's a way you can bring people together. I mean, do you think that's really important? And we've been losing public space and having too much private space lately, and we need to make the public square more open again.
Yeah, and I think it's more important now than it ever was, the fact that we've been so isolated for 12 months, and I'm sure it will be longer. There needs to be space for people to come back together and make those connections, new connections, and connecting with old family and friends as well. And I hope that our space on Pretoria Road North will become one of those hubs where people feel comfortable, and they know that you don't have to be a professional artist to take part in workshops or life drawing classes. Just come and give it a go. And I think, you've seen throughout the pandemic that people have picked up hobbies, whether it's knitting, whether it's painting, drawing, and hopefully that continues beyond the various lockdowns. But yeah, I think, spaces for people to connect are essential, and we are losing them. And hopefully by our space becoming available, and hopefully we'll be able to offer more facilities as the years go on, we can slowly encourage people to connect.
On your site, Chantelle, you've got this great ambitious statement: art can change the world. I mean, I think it can change the world, but how do you think it changes the world? I mean, how do you think that art can make a change that very often can't be made in other ways?
I think, yeah, it's definitely our perspective, and a bold statement that we're working for and towards. I think very much, for me anyway, being an artist, I think art really sort of allows a possibility to see the world in a different way. It also has the power to sort of bring people together. Ultimately, it's about sort of expression. And any form of expression or communication, I think, is so great in terms of thinking about joy and how we make change collectively. So I think it has a real sort of power, whether that be galleries or museums, and being able to sort of archive, historical sort of events and see it through a new perspective, whether it's studio spaces like ours and being able to actually connect with practitioners and learn new skills and tips. I think it really has a power to sort of change our view on the world, and to also see it from a very different way. So yeah, I feel quite, I'm quite strong about that one, that we can definitely create some change and sort of do things in a new way as well.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to change culture. It's cultural change. It can do more than politics can do sometimes. In fact, very often it can do more than politicians and politics can do. But, what you said at the beginning, Mark, it's interesting that, it's transformational for individuals as well, isn't it? It's not just changing the world, it's changing individuals, because they get together, they learn from each other, they spark ideas off each other. And that is invaluable, isn't it, in the work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, art can change the world, but if we can help one person in the community and, slightly improve their life, then fantastic. We're doing a great job. And I think it's those micro changes that then go on to have a larger impact. If we can get a group of people together to create something and have a great Saturday with doing a workshop, then they're all going home and, hopefully they're in a slightly better mood than they were at the start of the day. So it has such a positive impact. And hopefully people have started to realize that with, the galleries and museums closed, and culture has kind of been cut away from us for 12 months. And as it starts to open up, I think there's definitely a hunger for that. And hopefully, yeah, we all go back to the galleries and museums and appreciate them for what they offer us.
And Chantelle, how do you see your future in the next couple of years? Where would you like to be?
I think we definitely want to sort of have maybe multiple sites. So it's really sort of thinking about expanding our reach. At the moment, we have a sort of waiting list of artists and practitioners for our current site. So we know that we need to think about new buildings. I think really thinking about the educational side for me, in terms of access and visibility, and how we can really bolt on new sort of workshops and programs and think about this idea of experience and, making a small difference in people's lives as well. Yeah, I think just continuing to do what we're doing, and providing sort of supportive network for the creatives that we work with.
Well, you're certainly doing a great deal at the moment, which is amazing. So, if anybody wanted to find out more about you and what you do, where would they go, Chantelle?
So they would go to our website, which is artisthhivestudios.com, or our Instagram, Artist Hive Studios. So yeah, those two spaces.
Okay, well, I hope people will visit those sites, because I've seen some of the work you do on your site, and it looks absolutely amazing. And I think it's a really, really worthwhile project. So I hope people will go there, because, it's about bringing the community to art and art to the community, and doing it in an area which is a big challenge, but there are a lot of creative and talented people there. So, you've got a reservoir of people that you can work with. Anyhow, thank you for doing it, because I think it's been a great interview, and it's been really interesting finding out what you're doing and what you plan to do. And I hope people will follow up and look at what you're doing and, help you in joining and do what they can. So thanks both of you for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll stop this interview now.